Welcome to the Capital Sage Podcast. We're here to bring you advice and tips from seasoned pros and experts to help you improve your business. I'm Karl Barham with Transworld Business Advisor, and my co-host is Rico Figliolini. Hi, Rico.
Hey, Karl. Thanks for introducing me.
No problem. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not hosting?
Sure. I'm a business owner and a publisher. So I publish Peachtree Corners magazine, and I also have a company called Mighty Rockets, and it's a company essentially where I look and find companies I want to work with in social media, content, and video productions, and a bunch of other things. So anything within that creative realm and online is what I like to work in.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Well, today we have some great guests here to talk to you a little bit about transportation and transit option as we lead up to an upcoming referendum on MARTA in Gwinnett County. One of our guests today is Eric Christ.
Hi, Karl. Hi, Rico. I'm Eric Christ. I'm CEO of a healthcare software business based here in Peachtree Corners. We make software that's used in the medical billing industry. So it's used by the physician practice to create the claim that gets submitted to the insurance company and gets rejected, and they fix it and resubmit it, and then it comes back to them, and then they tally up what's been paid. And then at the end of the day, the software helps generate those statements that we all get at home from the doctor saying you still owe $75 that we throw away. And then we get another one and we throw it away, and then we get a third one and maybe we pay attention to that one. So if you get those statements at home, that could be coming out of our software. So the company's been around since 2000. I've been with the company since 2011, and we're based here in Peachtree Corners with 10 employees, and then we have some development overseas.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And also joining us is Paige Havens. Hey, Paige.
Hey, good to be here with you guys today. Professionally, I'm a marketing and community relations consultant. I've owned my own company since 2002 and do work with a wealth of different clientele from public to private sectors and help guide them on marketing and community relations efforts. So I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome. Well, we are broadcasting today from Atlanta Tech Park, and I just want to jump right into the first question around transportation and its impact on small business owner. So first, can you tell me a little bit about how transportation you see impacting? Paige, maybe you could start.
Well, I want to start with just the fact that I think so many people, a lot of the dialogue, the economic development dialogue around transit referendums that we see around here is about big business. And there is so much benefit that comes from to the small business owner as well. So let's look at, we need big business to move in because it creates major business hubs where small businesses then are able to develop and thrive. And of course, small business develops into big business too. So, but the bottom line is that traffic is a number one concern in the Metro Atlanta area, and it impacts everyone from trying to get your employees back and forth to helping your employees just get to work on time and being more productive. So this is a big topic, and there's so many facets of this discussion. I'm anxious to see where it goes today.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, as you've been here for a while and seen Peachtree Corners develop, and as more people come in, more businesses, what have you seen as far as the impact of the transit options that we have on small businesses as
Sure.
you go around town?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is, as a small business operator, when I'm hiring somebody and I get that resume for a particular skill set that I'm looking for, and the home address is Marietta or Stockbridge.
Yes.
I just hang my head and you look great on paper, and I don't even want to interview you, because here's why. If you're going to come for an interview, let's say at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to get here lickety-split, or somewhat lickety-split, from Stockbridge, and we're going to like you, and we're going to give you an offer, and then the next week you're going to start, and you're going to be coming during rush hour, and you're going to be taking an hour and a half, and after a few weeks you're going to hate your commute, and you're going to start looking for somewhere else.
Exactly right.
The state of traffic that we have, particularly rush hour traffic in Metro Atlanta, is we've essentially fragmented the labor market. That if I look at a resume and it's not somebody who already lives between 485, I'm reluctant to even pursue them because of that issue. And so that's something that I keep top of mind. So I had an employee, hired her. She lived just 5 miles away. That's fantastic. She could do the early morning support line. She'd be here at 8 o'clock, no problem. She ends up having to, for other reasons, go live with some family down in Stockbridge. And now she's trying to get here from Stockbridge. And then she had some car issues, and she couldn't write a $500 check to repair the car right away, and so had to get a little extra money, and so working from home. And luckily, our infrastructure supports that we prefer having people in the office. But that's just something we have to deal with here in the Metro Atlanta region, regardless of the size of your business, trying to get your employees here.
I wonder if you're noticing also a shift in acceptance of transit option as we go through generation to generation. I know I'm from New York originally, and for years, Rico and myself, we were accustomed to public transportation, train options, and so on. So we grew up comfortable using it. When cities like Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, are starting to move through this transition, MARTA's been around for quite a few years, but the millennials, this next generation, ride sharing, their perception and acceptance of different transportation mode is becoming really obvious. Are you seeing that play out on how people get to work in the community?
I can tell you personally, I have two young adults in my household who have recently come out of college and are one is looking for a job now, and another has been placed in last year or so. But my kids, they didn't even consider staying in Gwinnett County. It was just not even a thought, because they said, I've watched you and Dad go back and forth all these years. I want a different quality of life. I want to be able to walk to places. I want to be able to walk to eat. I want to be able to take a transit train or a bus somewhere. My son now lives within walking distance of work. And it has been huge. He tells me that majority of his friends now in the professional setting don't even own cars anymore. But those, he's in town, and it's a conscious quality of life decision that the next generation is going to make. And I have my daughter is very, very green, and it is a big concern of hers as to how to leave the least amount of carbon footprint on the earth, and that transportation piece is a huge consideration for her as well.
Can I ask you something? As you were saying that, I mean, my son commuted to Georgia State University, GSU,
Right.
so he drove to Doraville, took MARTA, went to school. He did that 2-3 days a week for the last two years or so. An experience for him. He liked, this was different than, he was at Georgia Southern, in the middle of, not nowhere, but, in the
Right.
deep South, if you will. And he preferred the city, and he decided he would be more than happy to commute that way. But it is an experience. I mean, so he found things on, what people would say, where you might see things going on the train system that maybe might not have been safe, or if that's not safe necessarily, people sitting next to you that shouldn't be sitting so close when it's an empty car, for example, and things like that would happen. Someone would sit right next to you, and you'd be wondering, okay, what is this about now? But so as you were saying that, I'm thinking there's a lot of kids millennials, right? They're living in town. They're not using the transit system really, because they're living right in town where the work is.
Right.
You
So
know,
what
so
the
how
point
does
is
that
that we're
work?
losing that workforce out in the suburbs, and the intellectual capital. I mean, think of what we've done with our school system, and we have some of the smartest kids coming out. They're leaving. They're not staying out in Gwinnett County and looking for jobs at quote home. Another thing to consider, your son, as an example, we think about the debt that many of our young employees have, and that they're working to pay off because of student loans.
Right.
Well, what if they could take more classes because they have more transit options and have more flexibility with that and don't have to extend? It's almost impossible now with the class schedules and how much time it takes to get to and from places in the metro area for them to take a full load and to be able to finish in a solid 4 years.
Right.
It takes a major, major commitment. As well, they could live at home and not incur the expense of the housing costs at the universities. So that's just right now. I mean, I know so many people who have kids in the Gwinnett County area who their kids are living on campus and other places here in the metro area because getting about is just not viable.
And I would say that even though people are living and working inside the perimeter, that doesn't mean they're not using transit. If we look at the development that's occurring around particularly Brookhaven and Chamblee,
Yes.
around those MARTA train stations, the loft apartments, so the housing that's being developed there, as well as shopping and the Whole Foods and those sorts of things. People are living at those MARTA stations and then commuting on the train to, let's say, the Advanced Technology Development Center operated by Georgia Tech around Tech Square, or getting over to Buckhead where Atlanta Tech Village, the incubator started by David Cummings, is based. And so I think millennials particularly are being very strategic. They say, well, here, if my job is near a MARTA station, well, then I'll live anywhere on the MARTA rail network, because,
True.
you know, particularly if I don't have to switch, even switching trains at 5 points doesn't take that long.
Well,
you
and
know,
and there's a lot of multi-use being built around that.
Absolutely.
So,
Right.
you know, do you see that as, you know, when people talk about transit hubs? And that was a question I had with the particular person that I spoke that's familiar with the plan. And they said, well, you know, it could be on Holcomb Bridge Road. And, well, would a multi-use development be able to be worked around that? Because if it's just the hub,
Right.
to
Right.
me, it almost doesn't make sense. And, you know, I mean, you know, transit hub, like any other transit
Yes.
hub, gets aged and looks bad, and especially if it's in the use of diesel engines and not
Right.
electric or
Right.
natural gas. That's the other sustainable portion, right?
Right.
Which is not in the plan that I'm
Well,
aware of.
yeah, most MARTA buses.
All Gwinnett buses are gas powered or
Natural
gas,
clean,
yes.
clean natural gas,
Clean.
right? Not clean, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and most
Better
of them, I
than,
think, don't quote me on this, but like 80% of the MARTA fleet is CNG as well. And I think, yeah, a multimodal, or excuse me, a transit-oriented development like we see in Brookhaven or Chamblee doesn't necessarily have to be around just a train station. It could also be around another type of transit hub. So if that's for a bus rapid transit stop or a local bus connecting service place, even we're even seeing transit-oriented development around park and ride lots.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
That just because that's where people are coming. And hey, if I'm already coming to this point for park and ride lot, well, let's put a grocery store nearby because they'll pick up groceries once they get their car and continue on. So same thing here. If we had in Peachtree Corners, if we have a mini transit hub, right, we're not going to have a heavy rail station here. You know, maybe in the distant future, 20, 30 years, we might have some sort of light rail type connecting us. But the plan does call for a bus rapid transit, which is essentially a train on wheels.
Right.
So if there's a station here somewhere in Peachtree Corners, location to be determined, that you would certainly see transit-oriented development happening around that. You know, it reminds me here in Peachtree Corners, we had Technology Park, which is where this office building is. It was built in the 70s and 80s. All these sort of two-story office buildings. One of the things there isn't, though, is a lot of housing. And so the city council back in 2013 or so it started looking at what do we do with Technology Park as a city. And one of the things top recommendation was you need some housing there. And that's where the Echo Lakeside development came from. But that also then leads to transit as well.
I'm curious about expanding the concept of if I'm a business owner and I'm thinking of transit, I think people automatically go to train. And I lived in wild in cities like Stamford, Connecticut, which is outside of New York, but there was a major hub. And what you notice happens around those hubs, whatever the mode of transportation, businesses started growing. They started placing offices there, so you had office workers, and then restaurants showed up, and then apartments, and this shift in thinking around mixed-use development goes hand in hand with multiple modes of transportation.
It feeds smart growth in a big way. It really does.
It's one of the things that you see cities starting to do, even downtown with the scooters that you see all around, the modes of transportation. So talk a little bit about, when you see in small business owners and so on, what other than the train and rail, what are the other modes of transit that you see being successful in helping drive growth?
Yeah, I think we were talking before the show started, Karl, about a couple years ago I was working for a different company, and they were up at the Haynesbridge, Georgia 400 area, and they had software and services in the healthcare space, and they wanted to open up a group doing patient collections. So when we ignore those statements that my company's software sends out, eventually you might get a call from a collections person. And they looked at the margins on that business are pretty tight, and so the hourly rate they were going to be able to pay people to be those collectors wasn't super high. And then so they're looking at that demographic, and they realized a significant portion of those folks are transit dependent. And those folks aren't going to be able to get easily to Haynesbridge Road. So they ended up opening a second office off of North Druid Hills Road, 985, which isn't near a MARTA train, but it's on the MARTA bus system. And they recognized that that was a way to increase the pool of people that they were trying to attract to their business.
So you do have the trains, you do have the traditional buses as we know them. You've got the bus rapid transit. Also, in various areas of the community, there's going to be what they call on-demand flex service, which literally can take you and pick you up door to door, and pick you up from your home and drive you where you want to go and take you back. And that's in certain pockets in the county that are less populated, that are more spread out, have less density in the developments, and it helps them to kind of get that last mile, if you dare say, or go. So that's actually going to be offered in a large portion of the community. So there are lots of different there's van pools that are being talked about. So business owners can really assess where their employees coming from, and if there are pockets where they've got some density, they can come in and request a van pool to be set up for that particular area. So, and then there's partnerships with Uber and Lyft.
Rico, I don't know if you remember, like in New York, dollar vans are really popular in some sections, and it helps people economically get, from one destination, and they're running all over major cities and use. So when you think of these different options around it, it's more than just rail. It's all these different. If I could shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about this referendum that's coming up, and trying to understand, what does it mean for folks that go out there and make a decision to vote for or against? What are we deciding? What's at stake?
The vote that the ballot says that we will approve a 1% sales tax that will allow Gwinnett County government to contract with MARTA to basically outsource our transit service, to be able to put in place a 30-year transit plan that will carry us then into the next generation for our community. So we are approving a sales tax that will fund our plan, and MARTA will be the contractor that will oversee the management of that service.
So for people to understand, Gwinnett County fashions the plan.
We totally fashion the plan. It's our plan.
Correct. And that can change and morph and whatever it needs to do.
Absolutely.
MARTA, because of their expertise,
Yes.
like Gwinnett Police, we contract with them to provide that service.
Correct.
And if they're doing something eventually that we may not like, we can always adjust that with them.
We set the standards, we set the service levels, we set the parameters that we want them to work. So they work for us.
Okay.
Yeah, Paige, I'm right. The money collected by the sales tax is held by Gwinnett.
Absolutely. 100% of it is collected by the state, comes back into the Gwinnett coffers, and Gwinnett County decides how that's going to be dispersed. We have an opportunity to value engineer every single project, and an opportunity to audit at any time any of the transactions that have to do with Gwinnett County money.
So if I understand correctly, this sounds kind of familiar. If you're building a house or construction project, the owner decides how much they're spending and what they want in it, but they contract out to general contractors and architects and builders to do it because they don't have that expertise.
Exactly.
Is it something like that?
That's a great analogy, absolutely. But just like a homeowner, you can go in and decide that you want the marble cabinet or the marble countertops versus or the handcrafted cabinet. So we have the ability to set our service levels as well, our service standards. So if we want our bus stops to be the best of the best, and we're willing to pay for it, we can do that. So, it's really a sweet deal.
So if even, just thinking out of the box, even if we wanted security, because security is an issue on any types of transit, right? So if we wanted cameras, webcams, or whatever on each of the stops, we could do that.
Absolutely.
That's what people feel a little safer, and there's some accountability of what
You know,
goes on.
safety is a topic that comes up a good bit, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to reinforce that you know, every community has crime, and Gwinnett is not you know, safe from that, but that MARTA polices the actual transit stations, but outside of that, it's our police force that does it. So you look at, are we happy with our police force? We can adjust that as we need to. We have control of our police forces, and we have our safety levels in this community. There's no reason to doubt that our safety will be any less than it was before, because the same people are still executing it. We're not just carte blanche turning that over to someone else. That too has to meet our standards.
So there's another kind of following along that. People have been talking about MARTA and talking about transit for years. Why is that critical now? What's the reason why people should get up, get out there, voice their opinion, vote for it now? What's at stake?
Well, we don't have too many opportunities to voice your opinion on transit. The last time we voted on it was 1990.
Okay.
So that's one reason. So these opportunities don't come along. At the county level, these decisions are made by elected officials. And in 1990, when it was defeated resoundingly, they got very gun shy about putting back before the voters. So it hasn't come back to us now for 29 years, if I'm doing my math right here. No, 39.
No, 29.
29 years, sorry. 29 years. So that's one important reason. You know, and why now? Why did the county commission do this? You know, I think all of their economists, planners were telling them, you know, we're a county now of almost 1 million people. And projections are anywhere between 350 to 500,000 more people coming over the next 30 years.
Yes.
And traffic is just going to get worse. And every traffic planner or road engineer will tell you adding roads is a short-term relief, but congestion quickly actually becomes worse than it was before you widen the road or you added a new road. Residential developers can build houses faster than you can build roads. So if you announce a new road going out this way up in North Gwinnett, the developers go, aha, and start buying up land, building houses, and by the time you finish that road and open up, there's more traffic on it heading now southbound into the city than before you started. So they're always going to get ahead of you.
Well, and I want to say too, there's kind of a perfect storm building in the region. So yes, we have been lucky. Our leaders have called the vote, and thank goodness they have. But we also have the formation of the ATL, which is the Atlanta regional plan that is looking overall at the regional efforts across all of the metro area and beyond. And we have 4 Gwinnetians on that board. We have 3 now on the MARTA board. That comes with a contract. We are blessed with the legislation that was passed in this past session, House Bill 930, that allows for our commissioners to call for this vote, but also allows for this type of control in our contract. No one else has this type of local control of their monies and how it is spent and the standards set than right now in what's been offered to Gwinnett. Transit is coming, so we can choose to be in the driver's seat and have the control like we do now, or we can say no to this and be kind of short-sighted on that and let it come on in, but it won't be on our terms next time.
Yeah, isn't it fair to say that if, let's say this vote failed on March 19th, and let's say in 6 years the county commission says we're going to try this again because traffic hasn't gotten any better. At that point, any vote at that time would be under the rules of the new ATL regional authority, and we would not have the same ability to customize it and for Gwinnett that we have. So that's another reason why this particular vote, this opportunity, is so important.
So if I could ask, let's get down to the granular level. If I'm a business owner and I own a business locally, what are the things that I can do to either educate myself, educate my employee? What can I do that might impact my business regarding transit?
Yeah, I think one of the first things to do is just, particularly if it's a small business, is go out and talk to your employees. You know, do you know right now how they're getting to work? Do you know that maybe some of them are having trouble using a private car, and sometimes they have to ride share, or or they're carpooling with somebody? and what would transit options mean for them. You know, here in Peachtree Corners, we're opening the town center with a dozen new restaurants and a new movie theater, and the number of employees needing to come here, and presumably most of those employees, except perhaps the college kids on their summer vacation, are not coming from the fairly well-to-do neighborhoods, you know, around here. So those employees have to get here. So if I was operating a restaurant in the town center, I would be thinking about how are my employees getting to work. So get out and talk to them. Ask them, how do you get to work now? You know, what would it mean to you if there was a more transit options?
Yep.
Like, start a conversation with the employees.
I do know that a lot of employers are struggling with getting employees. Their revenue is slowing down, their growth option, because they can't. And if you can open up that pool just by, you know, more people. I've got a cousin, I've got a neighbor that needs a job, but they may not have reliable transportation. Those are some things that could impact. Paige, what about you? Anything they
I
can?
think that as business owners, you know, you have to, there's working in the business and there's working on the business. And I think really stepping back and working on the business in a sense of really asking yourself, how can you be an employer that is pro-transit and that really takes this as a valuable asset to your company? How can you use this to leverage and grow your company? Do you potentially offer a service or a product that could benefit from the growing transit industry in the metro area? Are you positioning your employees? Are you positioning yourself as an employer who is pro-transit? You know, there are opportunities to do pre-tax commuter transit subsidies for your employees. You know, that's going to draw an attention of the employees that are looking for you. They're shopping you just as much as you're shopping them, I can assure you, and even more so in this generation. So, you know, how are you encouraging that with your employees? And then how can you potentially, if maybe there are entrepreneurs out there who are looking to maybe finally open up a storefront or what have you, go look at those sites that are these future transit hubs and really be on the cutting edge of that growing trend and that wave of people that are going to be coming from it. So there's a lot of economic advantage to small businesses out here as this becomes a real viable opportunity for our community.
Yeah, to tell you a real world story, a company here I know in town in Peachtree Corners, CGS, was interested in relocating. I think they're coming out of Fulton. The Peachtree Corners office market, rents aren't quite as high as they are down in Buckhead, and certainly not, you know, Midtown and downtown. And so they started planning it. They were working with the county's economic development team, Partnership Gwinnett. They found some property here in Peachtree Corners, and it wasn't until late in the process that they realized there's no transit option nearby for this office. And I think the reason they didn't think of that at the beginning was they were coming out of Fulton. It wasn't on their top of their mind. They hadn't thought about, by crossing the Gwinnett border, you enter the land of limited transit options. And so very near the end of the deal was potentially going to, you know, cause the deal to not be signed. Partnership Gwinnett worked with the county transportation department to relocate a Gwinnett County Transit bus stop to bring it closer to where their office is, which still isn't the best, because Gwinnett County Transit, like if you take MARTA train to the Doraville, it can take 45 minutes to get here to Peachtree Corners, even though we're 12 miles away or less than that from the transit station. But to me, that was just I guess my understanding is they were sort of shocked. They had, we didn't realize transit ended at the DeKalb Fulton line. And so.
That's one of the things that they were noticed that the integration of these long range plans have to include all of the. Well, I wanted to at least give an opportunity to tell folks some key dates and what you might have going on. Where can they go and learn more, and what can people do in the next 30 days?
Gwinnett County is offering a wealth of open houses around the community to educate voters. You literally can walk up and look at these big boards and say, I live right here, or I work right here. Tell me what's happening and how this is going to affect my world. So it's a great opportunity to get one-on-one with the engineers and the specialists and really dive deep with the questions. There's lots of the cities and city councilmen and elected officials are hosting town halls to educate their constituents all around. So I encourage you to go to GwinnettCounty.org or GwinnettCounty.com or gogwinnett.org you can certainly call the advocacy group there that I serve on, and we can certainly tell you where the closest location is we know to that effort. There's opportunities to get out and to tell your neighbors. We would love people to go door to door and share the enthusiasm, challenge other business owners to learn more.
So what's the date of?
Oh, the vote is, thank you, is March 19th is when the actual election day is. Early voting starts Monday, the 25th of February, and will go for 2 weeks, or actually that runs for 3 weeks, right up until March 15th.
And where would they go to vote?
The first week, you go to the main Gwinnett County Elections Office over in Lawrenceville. And then after that, I think it's 7 other locations will open up around the community. And you can also go to gogwinnett.org or the Gwinnett County Elections website, and those locations will be identified. It's important to know, though, if you live in a city, if your city is hosting an election as well as the county, those voting locations may be different. So you might need to go to 2 locations if your city is hosting a local election.
Right, but on election day, on March 19th, your regular county polling place, all of them will be open.
All of them, yes.
Wherever you go to vote for president or for state senators, things like that. So like, for example, here in Peachtree Corners, I vote at Peachtree Elementary School. Those regular polling places will be open on March 19th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., just like any election day. My suggestions for how to learn more. So many of the chambers of commerce and local business associations are actively helping educate folks. If you remember the Gwinnett Chamber, they've actually officially endorsed, they're recommending a yes vote to all of their members and asking their members to spread the word. The Southwestern Gwinnett Chamber has held a series of educational forums about it. If you live in Peachtree Corners, or even if you work here and you just want to stay a little later, on Monday night, on Monday, February 25th at 7 p.m., the United Peachtree Corners Civic Association is hosting a forum about the referendum. That's going to be at 7 p.m. at the Peachtree Corners City Hall at 310 Technology Parkway. And they'll be having some speakers from the county talking about all the benefits from that. The other thing I would suggest as a small business owner is consider, I know one of the things I do on regular election days is give my employees paid time off to go vote. And so that's a way to give a little bit back to your employees and demonstrate, particularly for those who would like a transit option or maybe transit dependent today. Here's the opportunity to say, this isn't the first Tuesday in November, but I'm going to go ahead and extend that same benefit to you to go vote on March 19th, is to give them some paid time off to go vote.
Oh, great. Well, I'd like to thank our guests, Eric and Paige, for your time today and helping educate us on transit in general as the bigger plan for our community, as well as specifically how this referendum plays into that, and really helping people to get educated about this and get out there and take action for the upcoming vote. And we'd like to thank Atlanta Tech Park for hosting Capitalist Sage podcast. And if you're looking for a great place to work and hear great ideas and keep up with the community and what's going on, this is a great place to check out and take a tour. I'm Karl Barham with Transworld Business Advisor of Atlanta Peachtree, just here helping share knowledge through the community, giving folks an opportunity to learn a little bit more about things that can help them with their business. And my co-host Rico.
Thank you. I'm enjoying this all the time, and appreciate, Karl, that you're my co-host on this as well, because this is an interesting way to get a conversation started and rolling about a variety of subjects. This is our 5th podcast.
Yeah, 5th, and we've got more coming at you in the upcoming weeks. So get out there, get educated. Don't sit back and let the world dictate how life is going to go and how your business is going to go. Get out there, get active, and get out and vote. So just want to thank everybody and look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
Thanks for the dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you.